NBA YouTube. It's your man 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Tonight, I want to dive into the San Antonio Spurs versus Sacramento Kings game. For the first time in a long time, the Sacramento Kings are playing some good basketball, and they're actually enjoyable to watch. In this episode, I'm going to dive into this. If you like this episode, smash that like button, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications, and get at me on the Twitterverse at Rock Never Stops too. First off, I want to just start by saying, you know, when you get on somebody's top, let's say you got like a friend who wears the same thing all the time, right? The same sweater, the same jeans, same shoes. It's got like food stains on it, oil spots, and they just seem to love the same outfit. And they think it looks as new as it did when they first got it, and everybody thought it was hot. And y'all start joking on them and y'all poking fun and pointing a finger. But then one day they come in with a new outfit on. And you're like, whoa, you got to stop and actually acknowledge that they actually look pretty good today. And that's the Sacramento Kings. In a nutshell, Davion Mitchell, his acquisition cannot be understated. Similar effect that Patrick Beverley has had with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He brings a level of toughness and intensity on the defensive end that they have not had since maybe the Sacramento Kings days where they had Mike Bibby, Chris Webber, and then Doug Christie was that defensive, intense energy guy on that team. But the Sacramento Kings, led by De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Domantas Sabonis, and head coach Alvin Gentry, who I can't overstate enough how much his system has been utilized throughout the NBA. And yet he rarely gets credit for it because most of his teams can't actually execute it because they don't have the talent. And what I explained early when I started doing this channel, how do you know your team is trying to win? You know your team is trying to win when they begin to get more veterans who know how to win. And Harrison Barnes is one of those guys. He ended tonight with a plus 14 on the plus minus radar with 27 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. Harrison Barnes is one of those guys who understands what winning basketball is. He knows situations. He knows how to move without the ball. He's refined his game to be able to play make. And when you see this complementary pieces put together, and shout out to my man Trey Lyles, who's been a very talented journeyman for a long time, but seems to be coming to life with the Sacramento Kings, who ended tonight with a plus 12 on the plus minus radar. This team is finally putting it together. And I had a question when the Domantas Sabonis trade first went down. I asked everyone, did you think that they would be able to put it together fast enough? Because the reality is that the West is picking up in the second half of this season. Where at the top of the West, they're kind of falling off. See, the Golden State Warriors are struggling without Draymond Green. And you see other teams like the Denver Nuggets, they're getting a little fatigued, even though they're still holding ground. And, you don't know how it's going to pan out. But the bottom, Sacramento, New Orleans, even Portland to an extent, is turning it on. And when you see these teams beginning to compete, you recognize that as hard as they're playing, Sacramento is desperately trying to find some rhythm, trying to recognize how they need to play in order to win and get into this playoffs. And it really comes down to Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. And we saw in this game, a game that both teams were highly invested in winning because they're in a similar standings, trying to get into that play-in tournament. What they figured out is that Domantas Sabonis is taking a bit of a backseat more and more. Not so much as a focal point of the team. But in terms of being the one to carry the offense or to do a lot on offense, facilitating, playmaking, scoring, but he shifted his focus more into the defensive end where he actually fouled out of this game, but it was an effort to be in the right spot constantly. And I have to commend him because it's similar to what Nikola Jokic did. Look, I'm not a freak athlete who's going to be able to jump over the rim and block shots. I don't have an incredible wingspan to defend the rim, but I do have my basketball IQ to be in the right position at the right time. And we've really seen Domantas Sabonis focus in on that. Yes, he made timely baskets. He got to the rim. He finished extremely well around the rim on pick and rolls, and De'Aaron Fox was able to use him as an outlet at times when they loaded up on him. But seeing his effort on the defensive end, maybe that has been the key that Alvin Gentry has been utilizing to get some momentum moving into this playoff push. And I have to acknowledge it. On the other side, the San Antonio Spurs, honestly, to me, they look like they're one player away. They're one dynamic, power forward type position player away. Jakob Poeltl is holding it down in the middle completely. I love how intensely he plays. He's almost like a Steven Adams type player. He's doing incredible when it comes to holding down the center and the interior of the defense. And on the perimeter, you have DeJounte Murray, who is the trusted playmaker scorer by Greg Popovich. He's been with him for an extended period of time. He knows the system. And he's really rounded out his game to be able to do what he did at the University of Washington for the San Antonio Spurs. And we've seen it culminate this season in an all-star berth. DeJounte Murray, of course, as always, is an incredible perimeter defender. First team all defense, for sure. He gives every perimeter offensive player headaches. And even though it wasn't enough tonight, we have to commend what San Antonio is building there. They have so much talent at the guard position. Of course, DeJounte Murray at the top, but between Devin Vassell out of Florida State, who ended with 14, 4, 1, and 2, who's just now getting an opportunity. Lonnie Walker, who ended the night with 30 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists and a steal, shooting excellent percentages from the floor. We even saw flashes of last year's first-round pick, Joshua Primo. And of course, I can't leave out my man Trey Jones, the younger brother of Tyus Jones for the Memphis Grizzlies. Both Jones brothers look like future starting point guards in the NBA. Their craftiness, consistency, basketball IQ, playmaking, finishing around the rim, and clutch shot making. I mean, it's everything you want in your consummate point guard. Shout out New York Knicks. You need to grab one of these brothers. But when you see what this team is putting together in San Antonio, you have to be impressed that they're even as competitive as they are. Being that they really only had one NBA starting level center, Jakob Poeltl, the whole time, and a bunch of guys that are probably closer to third or fourth string backup centers. Without another dominant interior force, they've been able to hold it down by a collective committee. You see Devin Vassell, who was a first-round pick last season, who, with the trade of Derek White, has been inserted into the starting lineup and has not looked back, despite still needing to learn the ropes of gaining major minutes in the NBA. He's been phenomenal for the San Antonio Spurs. His length, his defensive IQ, his defensive footwork, ability to stay in front of guys, and then also be able to get deflections and block shots. He ended this game actually with 2 block shots, leading the San Antonio Spurs. His plus minus was a little rough. It was minus 10. But 14 points, 4 rebounds, and assists, and 2 blocks, with 44% shooting from 3 and 42% from the field is nothing to be shy of.